Hello and welcome to Back at Camp, Mojave County's only outdoor television show. I'm your host, Captain Don Martin, and on today's show, I have with me one of Arizona's rising young stars in the bass fishing world, Shane Moline. Shane's going to talk to us about fishing in Mojave County and about what he's doing on the Arizona scene since he's become a member of the Nitro Pro staff. So don't go away, we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Welcome back to Back at Camp. I'm your host, Captain Don Martin. With me today is my good friend Shane Moline. Shane, welcome to the show. Now, Shane, you're kind of one of the what I call the young guns and a rising star in the bass fishing world. And boy, I can remember back when you were a young man and you started fishing, and you were just out there fishing. And boy, you got the bug and really got after it. You've been fishing since what, 1996?
Yeah, 1996, tournament fishing.
Okay, and you've had a fair amount of success during that time.
I've done well. I've definitely excelled at a lot of different levels. It's been a lot of hard work, and it is a lot of hard work out there, a lot of time on the water. But, it's like you say, it's just something that I took to and caught on to, and I've just continually taken it to the next level.
Right. And what are some of the highlights of your fishing career at this point?
In the beginning, I won a BFL, which is a Walmart tournament. Used to be the old Red Man.
Right.
I've won numerous team tournaments. A partner of mine, Wade Reeves, we won a South Pro Team Championship for American Bass Association, and that tournament we actually won a boat.
Wow.
Yeah, and then with my new partner, Tina, which she's been featured on a show or two, we've been doing really well the last 2 years. We've stepped up. We've fishing the higher levels now. We're fishing kind of with the bigger boys now, and we're competing. We're hanging in there. We're getting a win every now and then. And
now, in recognition of your success as a bass fisherman, Nitro Boats, you got connected up with them. Tell me how'd that all happen?
Well, we were at a tournament in February at Alamo, and Matt Schur, the state team captain, he came up and we met. We started talking about boats, and we were looking at Nitro Boats, and we started talking on the phone for a couple of days, and then the following Tuesday he called me up and asked me if I'd be interested in hearing him out on a Nitro Mercury Pro Staff deal.
Wow. And that was last summer in 2012.
That was the beginning of 12, and then by the time the summer rolled around, we had the deal pretty much finalized, got the boat ordered, and we received our boat in November.
What kind of boat you got?
We're running a Nitro Mercury powered Z9 boat.
Okay. And that 21-footer?
It's a 20-foot 9-inch boat.
Okay.
Really wide beam, really stable boat.
What kind of engine you got on it?
A Mercury Pro XS 250.
250?
Yeah.
How fast that thing run?
It'll top around, tournament ready, live wells around 70 miles an hour.
70 miles an hour. How's the brakes on that thing?
There is none.
Okay. For folks, if you don't know and have never ridden in a bass boat, when you're out on the water and you're going 70, imagine yourself going down Stockton Hill Road at 70 miles an hour with no brakes on your car. That's what it's like when you're riding in a lot of bass boats. Now, the thing is, when you de-accelerate, you do stop quick.
Yeah, the water slows you down, but it's still not a sudden stop. And
right.
Just kind of elaborate a little more on going 70 down Stockton Hill Road, add 2-foot speed bumps on that at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it's like on a windy day.
Right. And in Mojave County, you get to fish a lot of windy weather.
Yeah, 90% of the days are windy.
Wow. Okay, so now you're hooked up with Nitro. What are you doing with them? What does it mean when you're on their pro staff?
Well, they like to see us out at the tournament scene. That's what it's all about. Being at the tournament scene, being on the water, communicating with other anglers, communicating with fans and individuals at the weigh-ins. But we do boat shows. We do fishing events. I'm represented out of the Mesa Bass Pro Shops.
Okay.
And we have a really big fishing event starting in February.
And what do they call that?
It's called the Spring Fling.
Okay.
And it's their largest fishing event of the year.
And this is at the Bass Pro Shops in Mesa, Arizona.
Yes.
And that thing runs from February 22nd to March 10th.
Yes.
Now, you're going to be down there?
I'll be down there for March 8th, 9th, and 10th.
And what are you going to be doing down there?
On the 9th and 10th, I'll be on the tanks doing seminars.
Okay.
Probably 2 or 3 seminars a day during the middle of the day, and then I'll be working the fishing section. I'll be in the aisles talking to people, meeting people, giving out advice, helping them set up rods and reel combos. basically, you have a question, come down and see us, and we'll set you up, and we'll get you on the water with the right equipment.
Now, this big bass tank, now this thing, how many thousands of gallons of water's in that thing?
You know, it's hard to say because it's not a square tank, so I don't know.
Right,
but
it's
I mean,
a big, long.
It's probably 15 to 20,000 gallons.
And they got bass in there.
It's the tank you see when you go in. It's the tank we set up on. It's not a brought in tank. It's the tank that's there, and we do speakings from down below, one-on-one with the people there, and then we'll go up on top and we'll demonstrate some bait techniques in the tank.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you show, you know, how to work a jig, and I know I've seen some of these in the past where these guys are tossing lures in there and those bass come up there and they have the hooks cut off, but them bass take it and try to eat the darn thing.
Yeah, they do, and we do cut our hooks off. We have special baits that we rig for it. I'll be doing presentations on the Colorado River.
Good.
I'm the representation for Nitro Boats over here. So what my main speeches will be directly at the Colorado River lakes, Lake
Right.
Mead, Lake Mojave, Lake Havasu.
Cool. And those are your bread and butter.
Yeah, they are. I mean, those are the lakes that I'm on, you know, 70, 80 days a year.
Wow. Now, let's talk a little bit about some career highlights. You said you won some boats, you won tournaments, you won a little bit of money along the line. Of course, I suspect that in tournament fishing, it seems like the expenses really eat into those paychecks. But what's your best bass?
Best bass weighed in a tournament was 715 at Martinez,
Wow.
which is a lake down near Yuma.
Right.
I weighed that as a co-angler early on, 97, 98. And then I've got one double digit off a Clear Lake on a frog in 1997.
So a fish over 10 pounds?
Yeah. Caught him pretty close to the boat.
Pretty exciting?
Yeah. When those things, they can't even get out of the water when they jump. So yeah.
They're so big?
Yeah, it was nice.
You think Clear Lake is the Valhalla of bass fishing as far as big fish?
No, I think we're looking at the Texas lakes, Del Rio.
Falcon?
Yeah, I almost odds of Del Rio and then Falcon Lake. In California, I would tend right now to be looking more towards the Delta. It's more
really?
stable. Clear Lake's been up and down the last few years. It's more stable at the Delta.
But you fished a lot of those California lakes.
I have, yeah, and it's tough. I mean, it's not like fishing here. You know, we got these deep clear water impoundments, and we get used to fishing those, and then you got to go there and you got to, you know, line size up to 85-pound braid. You're throwing, you know, ounce and a half weights. Where here we're fishing quarter-ounce weights.
Wow.
And, yeah, but you know, on that, I think as far as best lakes, best trio of lakes, I don't think there's too many places in the country that compare to what we have.
Mojave, Mead,
and Havasu.
And Havasu.
I would go as far as saying Havasu could be one of the top 5 lakes in the country year round.
And what do you attribute that to?
That's a run-through lake. There's many forages. There's shad, there's craws, there's sunfish. The quagga mussels I think have been good. I think the red-eared sunfish feed on them. Their population's increasing. I think that's helping. I've seen the smallmouth actually eat the quagga mussels.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've seen them in my live well. And I just think the habitat project that they started years ago, that they're still maintaining, they're still dumping brush, it's just giving these fish numerous places to spawn in, hide in.
So even though Havasu now is reaching the period where the original trees and brush and stuff has kind of, you know, declined, because of the efforts of the Arizona Game and Fish, California Game and Fish, and the federal government, they put in these fish habitats that are, you know, I hear about catfish condos, crappie condos, these bass stuff that they put down there look like palm trees, and this stuff is not going away, and is creating this wonderful habitat. And you know, I'm sure you know that without you know, forage fish in there. For those bass and Havasu, like I say, I think the big 3 in there are largemouth, smallmouth, and stripers, and yet you look at you look at some of these lakes that have stripers in it, and you see a decline in the fishery, except in Havasu, and Havasu is going gangbusters, and I think it's because of the amount of habitat that creates so much forage that even the voracious stripers can't clean them out, and it allows for those big giant smallmouths and largemouths down there.
Yeah, for a lake that's not a drawdown lake, where you have like Lake Pleasant that draws it down 80 feet a year, the vegetation has a chance to grow back. Havasu is not a drawdown lake. It'll come down maybe 3 foot in the winter, unless they have some sort of ramp project, and then it comes down about 5 foot. So all the natural wood in there, has either fallen over or has decayed to the point where it's not useful. So then they bring in a habitat project like this, and they have pretty much indestructible PVC fencing type cages with brush piles that they maintain on a yearly basis. And yeah, it gives an incredible amount of area for the forage and for the bass themselves to seclude in.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm a hardcore striper fisherman, and I like those stripers, and even though I know that, you know, you take a lake like Lake Mead that's got limited production of forage, you know, the stripers tend to overwhelm the fishery up there. But even there, we're starting to see now with the gizzard shad being in there, we're starting to see some of the largemouths and the smallmouth starting to reach, you know, heavyweight proportions, and you know, hopefully, you know, the stripers will key on those gizzards instead of the thread fin so much, which allows, you know, those largemouth and smallmouth to put on some weight and stuff. I mean, we used to talk about the rats on Mead. Everything you caught was 12 to 13 inches, and now there's guys up in the Overton catching smallmouths that are, you know, 5, 6, 7 pounds. So that's turning into a great fishery, and you know, I think it's a win-win for everybody. And I know, you know, you fish all those lakes, and you know, I fished some tournaments with you with the Kingman Bass Club, and watched you just absolutely vacuum a bank where the poor guy sitting in the back seat, there's nothing there to catch, but it's fun to watch. Those of you who ever get a chance to fish with this guy, you ought to go do it, because you'll absolutely learn how to catch fish. Like I say, I fished with him in a couple of tournaments, and I think I got to put one fish on our weight board. Everything else was Shane just vacuuming him up, and he fishes all kinds of baits. I watched him work topwaters. I watched him work jigs, and man, he just spinner baits, drop shot. I mean, any kind of technique that's out there, Shane knows how to do it. And like I say, those of us that have got to fish with him in the past can attest to his skills out there. And you know, like I say, it's, you know, it's part of the turning into a pro and refining your stuff. Now, when we come back, we're going to take a little break here. When we come back, Shane, we're going to talk about some of your activities that you're involved with locally with the Kingman Bass Club and with the Mojave Junior Bass Club, and we'll get you to give a few tips about this springtime fishing and a tournament that you just got through fishing. So, folks, when we come back, he's going to give us some secrets on how to catch big bass in Mojave County. So don't go away. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Welcome back to Back at Camp. I'm your host, Captain Don Martin, and with me today is Shane Moline, professional bass fisherman from Kingman, and he's talking to us about some of his experiences. Now he's on the Nitro Arizona State team, and now we're going to talk about his involvement locally. Shane is one of these guys that gets involved with youth, has you know, been out there in the forefront and you know, helping youth get involved in the fishing sports. So, Shane, tell me a little bit about, you know, how, you know, you're fishing with the local bass club and what you're doing there.
Yeah, with the local club, this year I'm the assistant tournament director.
Okay.
And we're fishing pretty much kind of a small schedule with them. We have so much commitment that we're not going to be able to make all the tournaments.
Right.
We use that as kind of a liaison with the Mojave Junior Bass Club, at which I do a lot with. We go out and captain for their tournaments. And then I have a group of kids that are part of the club that last year I did a seminar for them. Mm-hmm. And what we did is we gave them all our contact information. And then I have a few of those kids, they contact me on a regular basis. And I try to take them out when I practice. When,
right.
You know, if I got a Friday and I'm going to be alone, I'll call one of those kids with the charter schools. They don't have to school on Fridays.
Right.
And so they get to go out with me, and they get to, we fish a little, but, you know, we look a lot, and they just get to kind of bounce questions off me all day. And I help them with their knot tying and techniques and their rods, and just kind of give them an overall general consensus of what we're doing out there.
Yeah, I know when that club was being formed, you had contacted me about seeing if we could get them some grants or stuff, and I was able to pick up a grant through the Wildlife Conservation Council, and we got them all tournament shirts, and they look real nice. And you know, it's a good deal that we got youth involved in the outdoor recreation sports, particularly fishing. I mean, it's something that's a lot of fun. It takes a lot of work. There's no question about that, but it's very rewarding. And like I say, I know that you've been involved in this, geez, in both of the clubs, the bass club and the juniors. So yeah, I appreciate you being involved and engaged with the community and understanding that, in order to make those programs work, you got to get out there and do it. Now, I know one thing. Let's talk about your partner, your current partner. You've been with her for how long?
This is our 3rd year fishing.
Okay. And when you met her, was she a fisherman?
She never caught a fish a day in her life.
Okay, and now she's part of your team.
She's a good part of my team, yeah.
She's a good part of your team.
She's turned into a heck of a fisherman.
Okay, and that's Tina.
That's Tina.
Okay, we better tell her name.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tina Kennedy, for those that don't know, when you see Moline's name out there on a tournament, a team tournament, you're going to see Tina's name right there with him. And like I say, she's really got into it and really learned a lot. And she's a force to be reckoned with. She just doesn't sit back there and be a pretty face and help bring the fish in. She's back there chunking and grinding and cranking them fish in, and she does everything a good partner's supposed to do.
Yeah, she's great. I don't have to worry about boat positioning with her. I can hit different angles on different spots. She takes what we give her, and every tournament she's there. She's putting fish in the well. We're weighing her fish. Last year she weighed all 5 of our fish in a tournament.
Is that right?
It was just one of those days. She had it. I catch a 3.5, she catch a 4. I catch a 4, she catch a 4.5. Every time I put a fish in the well, she kicked it out. So it was. She talks about that day all the time.
Wow. Well, like I say, if she's able to put a limit of fish in behind you, she's definitely doing something right. Speaking of tournaments, let's talk about a couple of tournaments that you two have just got through fishing. You fished in an American Bass Association tournament down at Lake Mojave. What was the story on that?
Well, it was last Saturday. We fished the ABA at the southern region for ABA, and it was at Mojave. And we had good weather all the way up until the tournament day, practice day for the tournament. And I talked to some guys, and they said the fish were shallow up on shelves in 10 foot of water. Basically, what I feared, they're sunning themselves. Well, so practice day comes along, and everybody knows that cold front that moved in, and I knew immediately I was just going to pull those fish right off those ledges. And so Tina had to work, so I got a hold of my son, and my son went out with me. And he's a pretty good fisherman too. So we went out, and we managed 9 bites that day in deep water, 30, 35 foot of water.
Wow.
And
where were you fishing?
Where?
What?
Oh, what? We were drop shot and craw baits, but not your standard drop shot. Right now, those craws are coming out of hibernation, and so they're puffing out of these rocks with these little cloud puffs. So we're using a little heavier weight with the 4 to 5 inch leader, real close to the bottom. And we're drop shotting like a modified double tail and a craw style bait.
Okay.
And dragging them real slow on the bottom. It takes a lot of time, and it's tough in the wind sometimes. When we carry anchors, sometimes we'll have to anchor on a spot.
But you're fishing pretty deep, 35 feet. I mean, you talk to most Western anglers, and they're gonna tell you that 90% of the bass are caught within the first 30 feet of water. I mean, the first 30 feet off the bank.
Yeah.
So you're fishing out there a little bit to hit that 30 feet.
Yeah, those fish, what they'll do, especially on Mojave right now, you can see 30 feet deep.
Wow.
And it's crystal clear, and it doesn't really cloud up at all until the traffic hits, and then starts mixing the water in those silty bays. So I like to get out there with those fish. They'll sit on that break where you can see the green water kind of meets the clear water.
Right.
And I typically look for that. And especially when those fish aren't feeling well, when that barometer starts to drop and it's stable down on the low end of the barometer scale, I'll pull off into those deep waters and check them. And we started that day out shallow in 15 foot of water and had a couple bites in practice. But by the end of the day, the barometer had dropped.
And Tyler.
Yeah, the barometer had dropped, and those fish are starting to feel a little under the weather. So we pulled out in deep water, and it was about 11:30 or 12 when we really found the fish we were looking for.
Now I know you use a technique that you call swimming the fish. And explain to the people what that means when you hear an angler talk about, well, I swam that fish.
Yeah, well, when you're only getting under 10 bites in a tournament, you don't want to go hooking your fish and landing them. It just kind of messes them up. In practice, yeah, it messes them up. It basically spooks them from a bait. So what we do is we roll our hooks over or cut our hooks off depending on the style of bait we're doing. Drop shot, we're rolling our hooks over, and they can eat the bait, and you can shake it, and you can pull it loose from them. Well, what we've done is swimming so many fish the past years is when we get bit, we can usually tell if it's a largemouth or smallmouth. Wow. And we can usually tell the size. A big fish, big largemouth, will grab the bait and slowly work towards deep water. He'll let it go once and never hit it again. A big largemouth will do the same thing, or a big smallmouth will do the same thing, but it'll bite 2 or 3 times after you pull it out and drop it. It'll bite it again. So it's not a set fast program, but it's something we kind of go off of.
Well, and these smallmouth, I mean, 20 years ago, we didn't know what a smallmouth was.
Not out here, we didn't.
We didn't. And we hear about the smallmouth are much more aggressive. And I always look at it this way: any fish that's got red in his eye is a bad mother. I mean, there's just something about a fish when they got red in their eyes, they're bad. And those guys, I mean, like I say, you get one of those and they try to pull the rod out of your hands.
Yeah, they do.
So how many bites you guys get on Friday?
On Friday we had 9. Talking about swimming fish, we found a fish about right around noon, and we graphed it, and it was about 27 foot of water. And I turned the boat around, I pitched out there, and I let the bait go down, and he bit it. And he swam off, and he felt like a really big largemouth. And we'd done that 3 times that day. Well, we started on this one particular fish in the tournament, and I threw up on this ledge, and it was 3rd or 4th cast. I got the angle right, and we caught a 5.19 largemouth.
So you think that was probably the same fish you had swam the previous day?
I would have to say yes this time of year. They don't move a lot this time of year. So, one of those deals, if we had hooked that fish and landed it or brought it up and lost it, he might have either swam to a different area or he would have been spooked to the bait. We might not have caught him.
Right.
By swimming them and learning what they are and preserving them, I knew throughout the day that was probably the best fish I'd swam in practice. Okay. So that's why we started there.
So the next day, when you and Tina are now fishing in that tournament, that one-day tournament, you go back over there, get on that spot, and throw in there, and bingo, catch a 5.19.
About the 3rd or 4th cast, I got the angle right. And what it was a series of ledges, and there's 3 of them. He was on the middle ledge. And I'd fished the upper ledge for the first couple casts, and then I dropped it down to that lower ledge. And once I got the angle right, I mean, it was there.
And then you stuck him.
Yeah, I stuck him, and then the fight was on. I thought he was a big catfish.
So on Saturday, how many bites you get?
We had 7 bites on Saturday.
And how many fish you land?
We landed all of them.
You got all of them in the boat?
Yeah, and they were all over 3 except for one 13.5-inch fish.
Wow. And what was your total weight for the tournament?
For our 5 fish, we weighed 20.40 pounds.
Oh man, that's a healthy average. And where'd you place?
We were first, and then with that 5.19 largemouth, we actually won big fish too.
Wow. Now, you also caught a big smallie.
Yeah, we had. I think it's the biggest smallie I ever caught. We didn't weigh it. We were excited about our limit, and I wish we'd have weighed it. But when we put that largemouth and that smallie on the balance beam, that smallie was just a little bit higher than that largemouth. So I'm sure that smallie was around the 5-pound mark.
Okay. So that and again, you caught all them drop shot.
Drop shot on that craw-bait. And
now, when those smallies are hitting this time of the year, do they tend to be more aggressive? I mean, do you feel more of a aggressive strike versus a largemouth, and he just sucks it in and, like you say, moves off with it?
Out of the 7 bites we had, 4 of them we didn't feel. We just felt the pressure after they'd ate it. 3 of them we did feel, and the 3 that we did feel were all smallmouth. I had one that hit it real hard, a double tap, and I think it's 20, 25 foot of water. And but what they do typically, especially the under 3-pound smallies or right at 3-pound smallies, is they'll elevate. They'll come right out of the water column and they'll jump and start trying to throw the bait.
Wow.
Where a big largemouth, especially the 4 or 5-pound class, they'll just drive towards deep water, and they typically won't surface until they get close to the water. So you play them slow, especially in that open water. There's no reason to horse them in when you're in. We're positioning our boat in 60 foot of water, and they swim out to deep water. There's no reason to horse them in. We're using light line, 8-pound test line. You don't horse them in, and you just play them out, and then they get tired, and those largemouth will come up, and they'll get up, and they'll get real lazy. And when they start to do that, then you kind of horse them, lay them over, and you put them in the net.
Right.
And that way, what you do is you don't allow them fish to come up. When they come up and they start doing this, their teeth are rubbing the line, light line, it don't take much. And you work them out when they're down deep, where you got the line to kind of absorb the runs, and then when they come up, you can just lay them in the net.
Wow. So when is your next tournament?
We're going to be fishing the first weekend in March down at Havasu.
Okay, so another tournament down there. You just fished with a club in Havasu, Kingman Bass Club.
Yeah.
And how'd you do there?
Well, we finished second, but it was a really tough day. It was on a Sunday. The current had subsided. They weren't pulling. They weren't producing electricity, and we struggled. We got 5 bites. We caught our 5th fish about 2:30, and weigh-in was at 3:30.
Wow.
And we had a 30-mile run.
Wow. So how much weight did you have for those 5?
Just a little under 9 pounds.
Okay, so significantly different than Mojave.
Just for that tournament, typically Havasu and Mojave can weigh this about the same.
Right. What's the biggest 5 fish you've seen come out of Mojave? Seen 25?
No, I've seen I've had 22 and a half there once, and then I've heard of a 24, but it's 22 and a half is the biggest I've seen there.
All right. Well, Shane, we're out of time, and I want to thank you for coming down and sharing this information with us. Folks, this is one of our young guns. This is a Kingman resident. We're proud of him. We hope he does well and continues to make a name for himself in the bass fishing world. So until next week, this is your host, Captain Don Martin, saying keep your fishing line fresh, your firearms oiled. We'll see you next week back at camp.